Hey everybody, and welcome. Good to have you here. It's a beautiful Tuesday afternoon. It is beautifully sunny outside my window today, but we're so glad to have you here. So welcome to the first in a six-part series called Design Conversations. It's presented to you by Home Publishing Group and My Design Studio. I'm Emmanuel Beliveau, and this is Yasmin, my co-host.
Hi, I'm Yasmin.
Hey Yasmin, how you doing over there? You good?
Pretty good. Pretty
All
exciting.
Right.
I think I've got lots of butterflies right now.
Yeah, we'll iron those all out. We'll let them all out. We'll be good. Everyone here is safe, and it's going to be a good time. All right,
Yeah.
so we're coming to you live from your studio and from my now home office. And the topic of conversation today and why we're doing this is to discuss the impact of COVID-19 on the design and build industry. And so for those who don't know a bit about you, Yasmin, I mean, I know you a fair bit, but for those who don't, let's hear a little bit about you and how you got involved and how all this thing happened.
Well, we have a business that's kind of a niche business that works with builders and developers to finish the interior selections of their homes. And in the last few years, we've built a wonderful new showroom, and we wanted to have in-person events for people to have a sort of a unique experience here, learn about products, learn about trends, hosted with a chef and sort of that whole fun side of things. And then COVID hit. So
Right.
we decided to zig and zag and take it online and bring our ideas, and maybe now even more relative and more sensitive to the issues that we're all feeling and living right now.
Exactly. So now
So
what's
that's how we
happened?
got here.
And so now what's happening is we have the makings of a six-part series that's come from a speaker series, and now we're just putting everything online.
Yes, that's right. And we've been able to partner with the Homes Publishing Group and have 4 terrific sponsors that are going to help us bring this information to our audience, our guests. And our 4 sponsors are Lixil, Constantino, Fisher and Paykel, and Metropolitan Floors through Kentwood. So thank you to our sponsors for allowing us to post this and put it together. Thank you.
Yeah, a huge thank you to them, because without them getting the stuff up and running wouldn't be possible. So thank you for that. So how has what's been the impact for you as of recent in the last 2-3 months in your industry, on your side of things?
Well, for sure, it's quite painful. A lot of construction halted, and the construction that was continuing, the homeowners are second guessing at times what they should do, and getting them in, to meet with the consultant and finalize what it is that they want, what has been trying. And we've turned to technology, and we're doing a lot of online meetings, which are proving to be pretty successful overall. And so I'm happy about that. And I think that inspired me to continue and not give up on our sessions.
Yeah, right.
And just and luckily for me, we have you, Emmanuel, that is partnering with us now and bringing real life as well, because you've had your own experiences. Just recently you shared the story with me when you entered someone's home.
Yeah, that was something else. I mean, so for me as a designer, one of the projects I was working on, they actually completely shut down. The unit they were working on, most of the people in there were, I think the median age was like 75 and up. So they completely locked the building down. Our entire project shut right down. And then I have the complete opposite of that. I have other clients who just want to get it done. And so we had issues at times getting trades to come in and do the work. And of course, at a time like this, I'm not going to be forcing anybody to do anything they don't want to do. So there is that juggle that happens for sure. But all in all, some things stop, some things go, and then we just kind of respond what the government is saying is we pick it up when they say to pick it up, right?
Exactly.
So, what I want to talk about today is what we're going to talk about. We're going to go over some of the things we've outlined today are about designing some better home offices, isolation, quarantine spaces, online learning spaces, and we brought in some amazing guests to join us today. So how about we go ahead and introduce those?
Yes.
All right.
So
first
our first guest, sorry,
go ahead.
thank you. Our first guest is Clare Kumar. Claire, maybe you can tell us a little bit about yourself. And then we have Cynthia Soda from Soda Pop Design. And thirdly, we have Theresa Casey from Theresa Casey Design. And I let you guys, share a little bit about who you are and your specialty.
Sure,
Starting
thank
with
you.
Claire.
Thank you, Yasmin. So most people probably know me from my days as a professional organizer. I was on the Social and Marilyn Dennis and doing a lot of work getting people's homes and spaces, serving them. And then I stepped into productivity coaching, so talking about performance, both at home and in the office. My focus right now is helping leaders and their teams through respecting humanity really continue to be able to show up at their best. So that's my great love now. I'm thrilled to be part of this conversation because I think we have an amazing opportunity because of this universal pause to dive into how we can greater respect humanity in the spaces in which we live and work.
Well put.
Thank you, Claire. And Cynthia.
Hi, and thank you again for including me in this chat. It's an honor and I'm excited to be on here. I started my business essentially, it'll be 8 years ago. And the way that I started my business was in such a way to allow myself to do what I love, but also raise a big family and have lots of chaos running around me at home. And so for me, with this shift into working from home, it's nothing that I'm not already kind of accustomed to doing. And at the same time, juggling and keeping all those balls up, it's just the added element of other things like kids' schoolwork and all of that are throwing a loop for me. But yeah, definitely trying to keep positive through all of this and keep on juggling.
Thank you. And Theresa, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm thrilled to be here. And I'm known for doing spaces that are really reflective of my clients' interesting lives. And my philosophy is that good design is impactful in a very positive way on people's everyday lives. And so that is how I kind of operate. And I just have a huge passion to create spaces that are enlivened by the people who live there.
Amazing. Well, thank you all for joining us today. And I think that you guys are the fantastic first guests for our first series, our first episode. First question, top of the day, I want to talk about is how is COVID impacting you and your business? Whoever wants to jump in, go right ahead.
Okay, I'll go.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, Claire, I beat you.
That's fine.
We need a buzzer.
Yeah, ding. I feel like at the very beginning when this kind of started, it's interesting for me, we were actually away on vacation when everything started shutting down. So we were blissfully unaware of exactly what was going on, or at least to the extent of the severity of what was going on at home. And so for us coming back, it was almost that 1 week that we missed, and then an extra 2 weeks to figure out what the heck is this social isolation, and what's the difference between that and physical distancing. It's like we were learning a new language when we came home. We left and it was a very different country. And when we came back, when we came back, we were struggling a little bit with some people, like Manny had mentioned at the very beginning, at the top of the show, and you were saying some people shut right down and you can't force any trades to work. Nope. And at the other end, there were other people that were they wanted it to keep going, just business as usual. And so there was a little bit of a disconnect and a struggle between what the government is imposing on our businesses and what our clients want, because as service providers, our main goal is to make sure our clients are happy. So if we're being limited in any way to bring them that happiness, that coveted happiness, then we're frustrated, they're frustrated, trades are frustrated. And again, we're not going to force anybody to work. So it's been kind of navigating that. Things have been moving a lot slower, but still moving. Luckily, before everything happened, we started another few projects where we got into the design phase during this time. So that's kept us very busy. And so having all these projects going at different phases has been a blessing for us at this time. It's definitely giving us the opportunity to work. But again, there's also the consideration for future projects coming up, and some clients really, like, not everybody has been allowed to or can keep their jobs and their income during this time.
Mm-hmm.
So there's also that impact and that factor that we have to consider and think about going forward.
How are you handling it, juggling with all the kids at home too and working from home?
Oh, you know, same old, living the dream.
That's a good segue into what I've been spending my time on.
Right.
Yeah, so my job generally is giving presentations, workshops, doing media and so forth, which is all in person generally. So I've had to pivot. And the thing that I pivoted to is trying to figure out how to support people in better working from home. And a lot has to do with making sure they have a safe place in which to work, especially when the kids need computer stations and parents are trying to work. And sometimes both parents, if you're in a 2-adult household, are there competing for that one office that you set up. So what are you doing? So I put some online resources together to support people working from home better. And so that's where my focus went. The other thing, real quick, on personal note, that I live alone. My kids live with their dad, and I was really recognizing the challenges of being too much alone. So I adopted these two. So that was my super coping strategy.
Just one second. They'll get my cat. No, I'm just kidding.
And Theresa.
And Theresa, how about you?
Say that something that's been kind of a silver lining is being forced to become not bad at Zoom meetings, and to figure out that they are something I will continue, because it cuts out the travel time, and with people's busy schedules, I find it to be really effective, especially because I can share my screen and bring up all the drawings for the project, walk everyone through. I can, and so I'm surprisingly really enjoying that. And also too, for clients that have been contacting me who are, well, not local, I guess it doesn't make any difference, but it just seems like it makes the world more accessible and be more
100%.
I think so. And I think there's also a tolerance of perhaps allowing each other to use these technologies. I used to always feel like I had to go to site to assess something that a contractor or a trade was having issues with installing or doing something. And so I had to go there with the client and look at it. That visit might last 20, 30 minutes, but you drive 45 minutes, an hour in the city of Toronto, and you just lost all that time to do that. So, being able to go FaceTime and Zoom is such a huge thing. And I definitely will use that moving forward too.
I think that's also important too for the people who never knew that they could use it or how convenient it was, like some of our clients, or like you mentioned, trades. It kind of opens up the world so everybody has this experience, I guess, to call back on and be like, remember when we did that? It's just like doing that again.
Well,
back in 2020.
There's a
exactly. Yeah, it's an amazing point. Gallup did some research, and 59% of people right now will choose to work from home as much as they want if they can going forward. So the demand for working spaces in the home is only going to go up.
I'm just curious, for those of you who have picked up any new clients during COVID, I went in to meet a new client about 3 weeks ago, and the client was, I think, 70, 71, 72, hadn't left the house in 8 weeks, and they're working on redoing their kitchen, so they invited me to come over and take a look into the kitchen. Of course, we had the conversation about PPE before arriving. I wore a shield, I had a mask, I had gloves. I get to the door, and normally for me, it's like, hey, how are you? Shaking hands, making relationship, building that rapport. And it was like, come to the door, I'm in PPE, he can't see my smile, can't see my face, I can't see his smile, I can't see his face. He takes 10 steps back, I walk through the door, he takes the elevator up the stairs, I walk up the stairs, we meet upstairs in the kitchen, and he stays on the other end of the island, I stand on this end, and we're having this dialogue. And it's just, I thought, like, what's going on? This is so different. But I still measured everything up and did my job and left.
Well, you have to smile through your eyes hard.
Yeah,
right?
really big time. Yeah.
I really believe, people are scared. There's a certain demographic, and they're afraid, and justifiably so. Justifiably so. So
some of them aren't, and they should be, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, sure. Right.
I know my mother is in one of those. She's terrified to leave her apartment and afraid to catch anything, or so it is. I think it is a fear factor for sure, and that kind of goes into our next ideology from your professional points of views. Is, do you see that how interior design may be modified moving forward because of these pandemic experiences that we're having, which a lot of surveys are saying that they will continue, and we will have others, and it's going to be something as part of our lives moving forward, which, good or bad, it's just an adjustment that we now have to make. So I'm going to start with Theresa, because I know you do projects all over the world. And do you see, Theresa, architecturally, if things would change the way you're planning your spaces?
Absolutely. Yeah, Yasmin. I mean, all of our worlds are now our homes. Yeah. And they've been shrunk to that. And so I think people are looking at their homes in a different way, and looking for it to do more things for them. So maybe there's more functions and working from home. Maybe it's in the garden. I've had a lot of interest in me doing garden design, because those spaces can be very nurturing. And I think that we want our spaces to be, maybe it's one way to control we can't control what's going on the outside, but being able to do that on the inside is, I think, a very positive thing. And I think that our industry is going to see more interest. In fact, I think that people are going to be looking to us to help them to get there.
That's a great positioning. Thank you.
That vacation budget probably turned into a design budget.
Yes, that's a great point, for sure, for sure.
Yeah, I have friends who were supposed to go on a honeymoon and didn't go on the honeymoon, so the money they didn't spend on the honeymoon, they've spent in actually adding more flowers to their front yard. So
yeah. I read somewhere, I think it was last year, that Ontarians, considering how cold our climate is and how limited our spring and summer really is, apparently spend the most on their outdoor furniture, patios, landscaping, all that kind of stuff. It's like we cram that budget into this space that we get to enjoy for so little time, because we just don't care. We need to make the most of it.
Yeah.
And so that's an interesting point that you bring up, Theresa, also about the exterior. And office, I mean, home office. I have worked from a home office now that I have to share full time. Like Claire, you mentioned before, there are 2 full-time working adults in this home, and 4 children, 3 of which need computers, plus they're doing Zoom classes with their dance and Zoom classes with piano, and it just goes on and on and on. So, I mean, there's only so many devices sometimes people have in a home, and we need to learn to juggle those things.
So do you see that as moving forward, if you were going to design a new space or a new home for a young family like yours, what would be some of the features you might want to incorporate for them?
I think a lot of it too is spaces where kids can go be and the adults can be, where it's quiet. We talked about at some point whether or not open concept is really a great idea.
Yeah.
How y'all like in your home, your open spaces now. It's like people then want to finish the basement with a door so they can still close the kids behind the door while they're on their Zoom meetings. Sometimes I've had to run up to my bedroom again, just so that it's another space that they're not all in. And I think that coming back to that home office, for sure, whether you're using it as an office for work or kids are using it for homework or just kind of quiet time, I feel like there is a reason for some kind of an office space to exist in the home. And I think more people will bring that in, maybe turn their formal living rooms into an office, those spaces that maybe don't get used as much. Maybe they'll start to see less value with the things that they're not using and swap those out.
I think
that's a really great point.
I think one things you have today from this, like from equipment perspective or from the mechanics of it all, I just currently finished a project with a client where we're just dividing a living room and a foyer space with just a wall divider that's actually going to be widened to actually be a desk. So when it's not needed, the doors close on it, you don't even know. And so I think that the point you make about open concept space, we have to find creative ways, not put a wall up, but maybe creating specialized furnishings that actually allow us to hide a desk in it or hide some multi-purpose functionality to it. And we have it, there are the equipment out there to do that.
Well, yeah, I love that idea. And one thing that I've thought would be really useful, and take this idea and run with it if you think it's good. I have a standing desk, so I can electronically move it from sit to stand. It's fabulous if we could have dining room tables that could do that. All of a sudden, it's the kids' craft table, and then it's the dining room table. So if we could actually not just think the dining room table is a fixed height, we could then turn that into a much more ergonomically friendly work surface as well.
That's a great point. If you look downtown Toronto with condo development, a lot of condos are in that 300 to 500 square foot range. You don't get the opportunity to have 2-3 bedrooms or maybe even 2-3 different rooms in that space. So the more we can make those singular surfaces multi-use, the better.
Yeah. I definitely do believe that developers moving forward should be incorporating some of these options or opportunities in their plans and just think outside the box a little bit.
Yeah, and,
modularity and flexibility. So with Emmanuel dividing that space, I mean, how many living rooms have to turn into exercise rooms at the same time now? So how much, how much can furniture be moved easily and then, to serve different functions? So when I was working as an organizer, I always start my 4-step plan. The P was prioritize. And so get clear on how you want to use each room is based on how you want to spend your time and then how you want the room to feel. And so now that this is a massive work-life redesign, asking yourself for each space, what do I want to do now? And could it look like if, pandemic aside, if I break my leg or if somebody in the family has a surgery and needs to, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
I feel like you should have some kind of handout at the end, Claire, that you could list some of these things. I'm sure you have one, right?
There is a handout. It's all about working from home. Yeah,
absolutely.
We are going to have a couple of handouts available that at the end of our session, we invite our guests to grab them, really, and we're happy to share that.
Yeah.
So
sorry, I was just going to add on to kind of what Claire was mentioning too, because in one of my very first projects that we did, the considerations were, my husband broke his leg last year and couldn't get up to the second floor, and we had to make concessions for that in the design. Again, pandemic aside, aging in place even aside, but now also like Manuel, you just said, you went and met with somebody, they were older. A lot of people are choosing to age in place, and about making all of these spaces multi-use or work for them so that it just makes life easier is going to be so much more important.
Well, and respecting some minimum sizes. I have to get this one off my chest because holy hell, with the way condos, and I'm in a 4-year-old condo building. I'm in the master bedroom, okay? 9.5 by 10. Knock yourself out. That's not a freaking master room. I have a desk and a single bed in here. I want to see bedrooms that fit a queen size bed with wheelchair space around it.
Right, you builders listening right now, listen to Claire.
Listen to Claire said, I feel really strongly about this because so I have MS. If I have to go to a wheelchair, I probably have to move. That's not acceptable in design.
No.
Okay. Not acceptable.
I think the current pandemic has really exposed a lot of us, or at least shown a lot of us what it's like to deal with from a generational living perspective. There was a clear divide in kind of who was more susceptible and who wasn't. So it's kind of like let's shelter and protect the elderly, and let's build up those who are healthy and can move about. Perhaps they can still continue the jobs they can do, but let's protect ourselves and let's protect the elderly. And if you're in a multi-generational living situation, how do you do that, right? And it's kind of
which is a topic we're going to have in our future sessions, actually. But yeah, I agree with you, and that's a personal passion of mine because I'm also getting into that age demographic. This is real.
But I love how you say it's not an age thing. I mean, 40% of people have a chronic illness issue. So
100%.
there's a huge percent of our population that is vulnerable.
Sure.
That we just dismiss because we can't see it. So it's huge.
Yeah, I think as far as planning goes, like for whether, for the future, but also for now, so that when we're doing like as an industry, I think that, a lot of us are saying to clients, okay, so how long do you think you want to be in this house? And how, and if you want to be there this is for your forever house, access in by wheelchair and bathrooms on the main floor and future planning so that, we don't have as many people going into care homes.
Yes, I vote for that.
You mentioned future planning. Right now, one of the things we do is we walk in the house, first thing we do is wash our hands. Future planning, do you anticipate seeing a lot more powder rooms right by the front door, by the mudroom?
And
Like
that was on my list.
Yeah, that's actually something that's funny. When we moved into our current house that we're in right now, it had actually been sitting on the lot for a couple of years, just dismissed by buyers because they didn't like the layout. Well, they didn't like the layout because A, the kitchen wasn't functional at all, and B, the powder room was pretty much in the kitchen.
Yeah,
so
that's gross.
Being an interior designer specializing in residential, kind of walked in and was like, this is great. I can work with this. And one of the very first things we did was move that powder room. Again, having 4 little kids, we moved that powder room from the back of the house to the front, because how many times do they get fully dressed and then say, have to go? Okay, at least it's right there.
Very true.
I think actually the whole foyer has to be looked at, because some of the buildings near me, you entered the kitchen. You open the door and the beautiful granite countertop is 3 feet away. It's like the clothing closet in our climate. We had snow 2.5 weeks ago and it's 35 degrees today. We need like all the clothing at all the time. So you need foyers that actually let you live practically. So yes, make a beautiful front entrance, but make it be like in Japan. I lived there for about 3 years. They have a very clear threshold between that entryway and there's like a tooth sucking breathing in. If you step over that thing, man, you're committing a crime, because the germs are not meant to cross that. And we need that thinking now. We need like that. That's the danger zone. That's over there. And then there's a clear boundary. So I think that's something that can enter design as well as we look at practical foyers.
A few years
Theresa,
back,
I think you wanted, sorry, Emmanuel, my apologies. I think Theresa wanted to share something.
Oh, I just was going to say, Cynthia, just to follow up, you're saying you got your house and the bathroom and the kitchen were right beside. Well, we still have a house that doesn't have a powder room, and it's been on my list, you guys. And for like, I don't know, 10 years, we did, the major renovations. We live in kind of a coach house type of space. But I can tell you that we've been walking around the neighborhood thinking about, okay, where's that powder room going to go? And how are we going to access? Because we don't ever want to leave our house. Like I think, if you have a home that really makes you feel good, that to me is everything. And so.
And also your neighborhood.
Yeah. Make sure it's you.
Our client said it once, our home is our hug. Right?
It should be.
We need hugs because we can't touch anybody during this time.
From what I did for 15 years, I know that for a lot of people, it's not. So there's a lot of people spending time looking at what they own now and reevaluating. Like, I mean, I don't know what percentage of your closet you're actually wearing these days, but mine is a small fragment. So I think there's a good question going on too about what do we really need and whether we design for that in the future as well. It's going to be interesting to see.
That's great. Thank you.
There's so many topics that we can go on about. I mean, it's really fascinating. This is a historic moment in all our lives, in businesses, in architecture, in living, in family. I think the conversation, we're just scratching the very tip of it right now, and it's incredible.
Have any of you had any specific conversations with clients that were a bit different than normal? Like, have any clients been asking for anything special or different?
Now, you mean now that with the whole COVID thing happening?
Yeah. Like anyone requesting changes in plans or anything like that, or?
Unless it's pertaining to budget, like I had mentioned, there's a lot of consideration for the fact that people aren't necessarily all able to stay gainfully employed during this time.
Yeah.
So a lot of that has happened. There's things like we did a few years ago, as Theresa mentioned, she doesn't have a powder room. I remember putting one into a house downtown. Same thing. I think that that's going to be a request. If they don't have one, they're definitely putting one in, keeping it relatively close to the entrance. But other than that, home offices have been pretty big for us still to make sure that we've included a space to work from home. And I feel like a lot of this, what COVID is doing now, is kind of almost, as a designer, we'll push for things like, you're not using this living room. Why is that here? I mentioned that earlier. Like, you just have furniture that's collecting dust. Why does it exist? Like, why is it taking up real estate here? And it's, again, focusing on the things that you actually need and making sure that those function. Even builders, they'll put in these teeny tiny, it's a 3,000 square foot suburb house, and they have this 2 by 2 foot closet in the front foyer with a door on it. Like, well, that is really not useful for me.
Right.
Why don't we take that out and build some floor to ceiling millwork, something that's actually going to be useful. And if you don't have a lot of square footage, it's about focusing on that cubic footage, right? And really making sure that we've created customized spaces and storage opportunities and working opportunities within that. And I think there's also going to have to be some kind of conversation around what everybody wants and what they think they want. Like, Murphy beds are cool and all this convertible furniture is cool. It's just, there is going to be a cost associated with that. And how do you still get what you want for the budget that you may or may not have?
Yeah, I usually call it the 90-10 principle. It's like, what are you using 90% of the time? Spend, the majority of your budget on that. And what are you using 10% of the time? Only spend 10% of your budget on that. Really, like, just to really focus things down to make it work that way. Sure.
What about touchless fixtures? Because that seems to me, but with surfaces being key. So the entry doorway, there's a Schloss lock. I think you can now use your app on your phone. You've already been touching your phone, so now you don't need to touch something else to enter your home, or the faucets that we're familiar with. What about wave your hand over the kitchen cupboard so it opens? Or I don't know. Does that exist?
Those things
actually.
Our client just requested, so we're putting a doorbell in for them, and they're like, nope, we're going to a camera. We don't want to have to touch anything. We want to see who's there first before we let them in. So, people are making those requests too.
And there is a lot of incredible technology that's out right now that a lot of people may not know about. And we're actually going to do a whole session just on paints, floors, products, fixtures, faucets that people should consider when they're planning their renovation. So I'm so glad that you brought that up. One of the things that's happening now, I feel like I'm Debbie Downer a bit here, but we want to address some of the serious things too. This has taken an emotional toll on people inside their homes. It's been hard for them to be mom and cook and business person and look after the kids and be the teacher. And I think I know that for many people, their heart is with them, but the stress of everything is being a challenge to sort of reassess how you're going to manage that. And it's taken its emotional toll on people. Claire, what can young families who have this is more of a challenge for them, and even I guess older people are feeling more isolated because they can't see their families, their loved ones as much. What can they do on an emotional to help them with this?
Well, I think there's a couple of things. From a space perspective, you want it to give you, I loved your word, Cynthia, that you want your home to give you a hug, right? You want that to be that foundation. And in many cases now, it's everything for us. So what can you do to make your place feed you some energy? Like the wall behind me is pink because I adore the color, and it gives me a lot of energy. So what things can you do to make your space give you that hug, I think would be a first step. If it's to do with a lot of things lying around, maybe it is a time to declutter, and I hate the word declutter actually because it devalues things, but go in through and treasure hunt and figure out what you want to have in your space so you've got a curated space. Be really open to putting things aside, packing them up and putting them away if you're not going to be needing them now to make room for the way you want to live. And you mentioned connection. I mean, I think it's really important. I've been doing some research over the last year as part of the book I'm writing on the amount of connection we need. And even if you're introverted, you don't feed the same way or fuel the same way off other people, we still need daily doses. And I'm thinking it's at least half an hour a day. And maybe it's one-on-one, not a big group, obviously, energy, but figuring out what that is. And one of the things I always ask people to do is tune in before you lean in. So tuning into what's missing and then dancing in that feeling. And you talk about being a downer, but it's being okay to stay in that place of discomfort for a period of time, so then you can allow some creativity and innovation to happen, and maybe you'll come up with that thing that will pull you right out of that and hold you there.
Thank you. That sounds good.
Love that. I love that, being in it and getting the creativity. I do want to ask another question about how you anticipate things going right now. Like, not a lot of the suppliers that we commonly go to and deal with are open. Their storefronts aren't open. And some are starting to slowly open up. I think that there's something for me as a creative to walk into some spaces and be inspired by the things that I see, something new I've never seen before. All of a sudden, without the ability to go into these stores, they're being curated by these people bringing fantastic products from all over the world. How do you guys see that that's going to continue to be? Like, what things that go through your mind is around that kind of stuff? Is it online shopping? Is it maybe stores curating and doing more stuff and just putting more content online, or what's the answer there?
No, I think that like, one thing that comes to mind is maybe the industry is going to become a little bit more supportive of each other. Not that they aren't already. But an example would be that there's the NKBA, the National Kitchen and Bath Association. So they have a regular weekly meeting on Tuesday mornings from 10 to 11. And they've been bringing different speakers each week. And I have to tell you, I love that, because it makes me feel like, okay, I'm not alone in this. There's everybody else is in the same boat, and they're bringing ideas that, maybe aren't in my wheelhouse. So I think that's one way that I think I'm really enjoying.
I feel like a lot of suppliers too are opening up at least for appointment only. So sometimes, at least now, you can, I guess, take comfort in the fact that I can call these guys up. If they are open, then I'm able to book an appointment, do my walk around, do some touring. The tough thing now is clients who, if they want to do sit tests or see actual things in person, they may need a little more trust or waiting that's required. Because if this becomes our new norm, I think the scary thing is all of us are in the same boat, in the sense that we don't know when it's going to end, when it's going to get worse, when it's going to get better. There's a lot of uncertainty there that we're floating around in. So I think patience right now, I said it once, patience right now is the most virtuous and abhorred feeling that we can actually have going into this and trait that we have. So
do you think it'll change the way people are making buying decisions? I mean, shopping online is tough, right? I just bought boots. They don't fit. I got to spend $20 to send them back. It's annoying, right? So will that mean that, the whole, you want to try something, is the design and shopping process going to change to allow for some more flexibility in that? I don't know, just a question.
And it'll almost be like policies, right? Before you'd have to buy something, if it's being custom made, we're not going to fix it. It's almost like every single company now is going to have to reevaluate how to better service their clientele, us included. So it just becomes, it's a little bit trickier.
Yeah.
And I feel
fees to switch, maybe like airline, you change your flight. Well, I changed my leather finish on the couch, so
right.
I'm still buying the couch, so we're a committed customer, but now I want green, not brown. So is there a change fee instead of a whole repurchase?
So speaking of change, and perhaps speaking of choice, when we purchase, we have an opportunity to purchase things for our clients, or show them at least product that come from different parts of the world, or even things that are made locally. Have any of you been impacted by that recently, with having had selections from other parts of the world that obviously are not able to come in? We've had to switch gears and get something locally.
Teresa's nodding.
I've had I have one client, and God bless them, I don't know if they're patient, but I'm asking them to be, because a lot of their furniture is sitting in Italy and it hasn't been shipped. It's ready to go. And, you know, I really feel for them for decisions that were made. I mean, the delivery time already on things coming from Europe is be 8 to 12 weeks. But, you know, now we're looking into like 5 to 6 months in total. And they have me.
That's the patience, right?
Right.
So
Because that's even local
now.
stuff.
Yeah, right. But do you see there's an opportunity now to actually encourage purchasing local and buying local and actually supporting local artists who do beautiful work as it is?
Yeah. And
as long as they stay in business, right? Didn't we lost the Barrymore, right, recently?
Yeah.
And I have my sofa in my living room in my old house is Barrymore. It was fabulous. So yeah.
Yeah.
Time to support local.
We ordered some custom furniture for a client of ours back when it's still, I mean, if you're ordering even locally, it can take 8 to 12 weeks. So now that 8 to 12 weeks turned into, okay, we're going to need another extension on that. It'll be another month. Well, then that other month is actually, we need another 9 weeks on top of that now because nobody was able to work. And that's just still local. Again, it's asking, like you said, Theresa, I don't know if your clients are patient, but at this point, our hands are really tied.
Makes me wonder if trends will slow down because we're so driven by, you know, the Pantone color comes out, everything we see the colorway everywhere, right? Yeah. And so now if we're gonna have to be patient, what's gonna happen? Like we can't take another color. We're not finished with the last one.
Yeah,
we didn't even get
have a new
sofa.
season. Yeah.
Right? I don't know.
I saw something, it was a meme. It said 2020 be like January, February, what was it? January, February, lockdown, January again. Nothing, and then we'll start 2021 again.
There you go. All right, so I want to move into a speed round where we just basically throw a couple comments out there and each of you just pitch in what you think about it. We actually have covered some of these things already, so I'll try to make sure we don't say them again. But what I'll do is I'll throw them out there. You throw an opinion at it, and then we'll just move through it really quick.
Yeah, really quick. I don't know if we want to try and have time to see if our guests are having any questions.
Yeah, for sure. Do we have a list of questions from Joelle?
Hi.
All right.
Why don't you guys go through the speed round? We have a couple questions that are waiting, but I'll save them all for the end. A couple questions might come through some of the speed round. So if anybody does have any questions, please send them in.
Okay. You know what? The funny thing, I'm looking at the questions, and I realized we actually did cover about 90% of them. I'll throw them out. They'll give us just one last comment to say something on it. So let's just go through it. Open concept design. We're gonna keep on doing that or what?
More doors. More doors.
More doors.
In the office for sure. In the workplaces and at home.
More doors, safe families.
More ability for the flexibility. Flexible spaces, not necessarily close them off entirely. You might still have a big Italian dinner happening and you need to open it up for whatever it is, but more ability to close
sliding walls maybe.
Right, and doors can still be translucent, right? You can still let lots of light go through doors, big tall glass doors. That also works too. All right, powder rooms. Do we see ourselves enlarging entries and more powder rooms?
Yes, I'm first, please.
That's awesome.
The functional foyer.
Yeah.
All right.
Exactly.
And traditionally now we have a master bathroom, a general bathroom, and a powder room in a house. Do we see ourselves wanting to put more in a home, or what do you think?
On every place that's a 2-story should have a main floor bedroom with its own bathroom. Because if you've had heart surgery or you're, you know, you need to recover, you need a proper bathroom right there. That's where the bath should be. The upstairs can have showers, but that's where the bath should be. That's my opinion.
Good note. All right. Do we see home offices or convertible desk solutions?
Both.
Yeah.
Depending on what your space will allow. And probably some cognizance that everybody that's got to study or work needs some kind of functional space, sitting, standing, reclining. All three.
Which takes me to the next thing. I'm calling it personal space, but we're talking about wellness and fitness. Are we going to have to require a space that's just a flex space, or do you think we need something special for that?
I
For
don't even know
wellness and
what you
fitness,
got.
you're thinking?
Yeah.
Sorry, Teresa.
I was
How
just
many
gonna-
people bought Peloton bikes and need to, are sleeping beside them right now, right? It's like I have a yoga mat that goes on my balcony, and I rearrange my furniture to be able to use it inside. I think it's about being able to move the furniture to make space for that exercise, because if it's not easy to get at your exercise stuff, you ain't going to use it.
You're not gonna do it.
Yeah.
No,
Never
you're not
gonna
gonna
do
do
it.
it.
Mhm.
So next question is vacation-wise,
Sorry.
Porta Vallarta or Porta Backyarda?
Porta.
Backyarda.
Everybody's in Porta Backyarda. They're tired of Lost Living Room.
Right? Lost living room has lost its appeal. I think one of the things that we've been pushing for the last few years anyway, given the cost of cottages in our neck of the woods, I always encourage clients to spend more money in their backyard, build a gazebo, build something far enough from the house where they can kind of have that feeling of having left. And now it's like all the more reason to do that. You're not going to be traveling for a little while. So, this summer, put some time into the backyard.
Or maybe your lane into your back lane, huh?
Into your back
Right?
lane. That's a good idea. In fact, the lane's a great reason why you want to be able to separate mom and dad from the rest of the family, right? So it creates that different
Teenagers, like the bunkie, but it's your home bunkie, right?
and home office, a home fitness studio. Lanes are perfect for that.
Yeah.
Just saying. All right. And then kids' playroom. Do we think kids deserve their own play space too?
Oh, kids' playroom is only keeping mom sane. So
Yeah,
100%.
Essential.
exactly. There's no judgment anymore. This is a judgment-free zone. Your kid spent all day on TV. Oh, whatever.
Nobody wants to step on Lego either, right? Nobody wants to step on Lego. Nobody. So
Nobody
it's
wants to
about,
step on Lego yet. The finished basements, if you've got them, or a designated playroom in any way, shape, or form is always a good idea.
And it might allow then bedroom space to be that desk and quiet focus space rather than it being in a play space where we're expecting activity and entertainment and interaction.
I had a client actually, they're planning out their future home, and above the garage they have gym and kids play space within that area. Because I mean, if you're working out, then the kids can play and everybody's getting physical activity, and it also kind of kills all those birds with one stone.
That's smart.
Very smart idea. Very smart idea. All right. So each one throw something out there. What, from an interior design perspective and from our own home perspective, what is something, given that it's difficult to access some things right now and things are opening up, so this may change. Of course, this question is quite flexible depending on what's going on right now. But what's something that you can recommend people can do their home right now if you want to make a bit of a change?
Paint their wall pink. Look how pretty that is. It looks amazing. Just something that feeds your soul.
Yeah.
I would say get some flowers, like really simple, but I just try and bring joy into your space, and that can do it.
And I'll say,
things,
get rid of, I have sometimes loose ends day, but this is a fabulous time to look at the things that you're carrying in your mind as conversations you just want to get rid of. So finish a few things that are on your list. I've always been meaning to, because this is bugging me, finish a couple of those things and you'll feel really good.
I'm a huge proponent of again, having that big family. It's everything is organized. There's a place for everything and everything in its place. And then that way, when the kids are like, Mommy, where's this? Mommy, where's that? It's like, I don't know where your Beyblade is. You were playing with it. But if we know that all the toys go in a certain spot, it's likely there.
Agreed.
Or in your room, right? Like there's always,
There's only two spots for it.
Organized.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think this whole situation has kind of hit us and maybe forced us to take a look at those different units that are in our homes and maybe think about them in a different kind of way than right before, where we were just running in, making dinner after a long day at work and traffic, and then rushing out and rushing in. And I think because of the situation now, it's allowed us to take and assess what's happening in our homes, whether it's 500 square feet or 5,000 square feet, and sort of rethink about the way we want to use our homes and use our homes actually for real.
Absolutely. All right, Joelle, do we have some questions from our listening audience?
Yes, we have actually quite a lot of questions.
Okay, let's get to it.
So you guys definitely sparked a lot of comments and questions. So we have some questions and some comments, so I'll try and break it out for everybody and see where we could go. So we do have Josh that was asking about the need for more usable space. Now that we are using our basements and our garages as flex spaces and play spaces, and we no longer are using these spaces for storage, what is are we going to see a huge shift in the focus of where does our stuff go and that organization part of it?
I think
that's a very good question.
That comes back to our point earlier about incorporating customized spaces. Like instead of that little tiny closet, do some floor to ceiling millwork. Make sure that, I guess, even to the organization point, make almost a list or an inventory of what it is that you're looking to store and where, and make sure that those solutions suit that.
And do you really
purpose.
need it? And do you
Right.
really need it? Sometimes we hang on to things like, I call it emotional, because it's part of our history, or because it's we inherited it from our parents, or we just keep it and we don't really use it, you know, and it's very emotional. It's very hard to release it. So I think maybe this also allows us to maybe release some of that and allow for other good energy things to happen instead.
I can just very quickly just give you the 4 steps of the 4-step plan to get organized, which is space liberating. So priorities, right? Like you said, Cynthia, figure out what you want to do in the space. To your point, Yasmin, it's liberate. Let rid of the things that are not serving your priorities. Then it's arrange. And this is where you want to have the right amount of effort to retrieve whatever it is that you want to use. So it's got to be visible, accessible, manageable, and pleasing, and then you'll interact with it. And then the N is nurture, which means that you're going to have the behaviors to tidy up and put things away. So, you know, a space for everything. So the 4-step plan is a simple way to think about getting the most of the space that you have by making sure everything you have there is serving what you want to do. And I think that's the first step. And to your point of millwork, you know, thinking of maximizing the vertical space as much as you can. And there are you know, things that require an investment, and there are very inexpensive ways to have stacking bins inside a shelf to make sure you're using that full height of your shelf, and putting shelves back to back, so one in the front and one in the back, so you can do a quick switch from back to front, and all of a sudden your winter stuff in the back, and now in this, and you just do a season switch that way. Right. So looking at modular ways you can access the space that you have more creatively can save you and make the space work harder for you.
That's a really great tip. Any other questions, Joelle?
Yeah, so here's a comment. We had a comment from Victoria that says she loves the idea of the modular kitchen or dining table. So somebody really needs to jump on that. So, you know, guys, go get on that one. We have a question for Theresa from Marianne. So Marianne is asking that Theresa, had mentioned that you had some client meetings via Zoom and you were sharing your screen. She wants to know what software you were using to share your screen, or how you were sharing a mood board, for example, with some of your clients to help them understand a potential mood board.
What I've been doing, I use Zoom, and but I'm like a newbie to it, but it's very user friendly, and I say to people, don't worry, this isn't going to hurt. And what I do is I put a folder on my desktop. I have a folder that says desktop files, because I am honestly not the most neat person when it comes to my computer. So you just put all of that stuff away. You have your client in their folder, and then I go into that folder. And then if I say, okay, this is our sofa that I'm recommending, then I pull up the image of that sofa. Or if I've got a presentation board, then I bring that up and walk them through. So that's how I approach it. And the same thing I mentioned before about the drawings. But it's just, I really like it.
So just so it's clear to the person asking the question, that's all done in Zoom. There's just a button you press to share screen. So it's going to take anything that's in your computer and project it to the person you're speaking to.
I've even actually been pretty transparent about that with our followers, even on social media, on Instagram. I did a presentation meeting for a client where it was the very first presentation. They saw our design concepts and everything, and we were able to do it all through Zoom, just sharing screens. And I kind of walked through that whole process. So it it is relatively painless, right? Like it's just,
I also
Yep,
find
we're
too,
using it too.
you have their undivided attention. They have no place else to look. Like really, if
No,
you're
very
saying,
good
look at this
point.
element in
Very
the
good
kitchen,
point.
they actually
Yeah.
look at that
Yes.
element in your kitchen, like they actually see what you're
Mhm.
looking at. So
Is there any drawback? Are you guys sensing anything missing from that online interaction with your clients that you would have in person that you don't?
for me, the hardest thing at this point is we're presenting design concepts, I feel like is no big problem. Once we start getting into design or reviewing construction working drawings, those usually, I mean, sometimes they're bed sheet size, right? Like they're so huge. And to be able to go through, we're zooming into one little area and then zooming out and then zooming into another area. So there's a lot of notes and things. It becomes difficult. I tell my clients, we're teaching you almost a language during this process where you're learning to read our drawings. And so that sometimes requires a little more hand holding. So those meetings on Zoom take a little longer than they normally do.
Do you ever get them to print it out and just like tape it all together so they can see it?
That was the
I
other
would
thing,
have
too.
to
There
do
was no
that.
printers. There was no printers available. I couldn't even print it out and have it sent to them in advance. So it's like, just look here, I'll zoom in.
Yeah, that's tough. Yeah.
No, they're great tools. We're actually lucky that this is happening during this technological times. We're also using a similar type of software. We use GoToMeeting, and we can meet the homeowners and show them where their lighting is going to go, ceiling details, or the consultant can actually draw on the screen and move walls if required. So yeah, it's very useful. It's fantastic. So Joelle,
That's a
any
great
other
segue.
questions?
Yes, because that was a great segue to our next question. Nicole is asking, what are some best
Hi,
lighting
Nicole.
arrangements for workspaces?
Lighting arrangements. I feel like it comes down, sorry, I'm jumping in. You guys can cut me
Go,
off.
jump in, but I love the topic. Go.
For workspaces, I think the biggest thing when we're designing lighting in any space is making sure that we have all different types of lighting. So you have overhead lighting, you've got ambient lighting, you have task lighting so that you can control it. In my office, I have a desk lamp, I have an overhead central fixture, and I've got 4 pot lights on, all on dimmers and all on separate controls so that you can really control.
And I would also like to add that there's a lot of technology in lighting right now that's happening, which mimics daylight and nighttime, and it helps the emotional also aspect. It helps you see better. Yes. So there's a lot of information, and hopefully we're going to get to that in one of our future series. There's lots of things we can share, and we want to share more.
I just want to make one quick point about lighting. Don't forget your supplemental lighting for good video, right? So that's another piece of lighting that just, before now didn't exist. But also pay attention to the color quality, the temperature of lighting. There's a lot of people putting 3,000 and plus Kelvin, so that's cooler, brighter white light. That's okay in the daytime, but at night that can cause migraines for a certain percentage of the population. I'm one of them, and I figured out it's a photophobic. I could not look at this ring light and do a video with it in front of me. I would have a migraine afterwards. So be aware of the color quality of the lighting that you're employing, especially in an environment you're going to be working on, and pay attention to it in the time of day.
Yes, absolutely. Because some of the LEDs, there are some LEDs which are very cool and have this bluey, greeny tinge, and we definitely don't want that.
2700 and lower is going to be calmer for your eyes.
And help us sleep at night too.
Yeah, you're not going to get the blue or green. Both wavelengths will sabotage your sleep.
Very good. Any more questions?
I've got another. Yes. Shoot. If you guys have time, we've got a lot of questions. So I've got I've got a comment followed by one question, which we'll see where we end up in terms of time after that. So
I'll make an offer. If there's any questions specific to what I talk about, you can send them to me afterwards, and I'm happy to post them or answer them or give them back to you guys to share. Okay, just to let you know.
For sure, that's great. So we had a comment that about when we were talking about the powder rooms, about an interesting fact that apparently the powder room was born after the 1918 pandemic, so that people delivering milk and other things could use it and not come into the family home. So thank you, Evelyn, for that.
That's amazing.
And then that follows into a topic that we maybe didn't get a chance to talk a lot about during our conversation, which was about that isolation and quarantine spaces. So Peter commented, anyone looking at 2 home offices potentially in terms of design, and also, are we looking at adding additional laundry rooms and basements with showers incorporated? So does that go into that question of isolation and quarantine spaces?
What I think, I personally, I have a friend of mine who did have COVID-19 in BC, and luckily for him, he was able, their home had a suite downstairs. I think they had a granny suite downstairs, or a nanny suite downstairs. So he was able to quarantine himself from his 2 young children and his wife. So he stayed in their basement in their suite. So it had the bathroom, it had the laundry down there, it had everything. And so he was able to do that. I guess you could say they were able to convert that space specifically for him at the time. But that does definitely bring up an important factor, that producing a guest suite in your basement is not a bad idea for future use.
And going to that question about 2 home offices within that space, I think that also goes to Claire's earlier point or suggestion about, if you do have, let's say, that home office, your dining room maybe could be converted into that separate office if you have convertible tables or whatever it is, to be able to split that up.
Well, from what I've seen, a lot of people are putting a home office in not the brightest space in the home, and people don't want to be in a dark space. So they're migrating to the dining room anyway. And the ergonomic posture of dining room chairs and laptops, there's an ergonomic shit show going on out there. Excuse me. I'm sorry. It's terrible. And I'm seeing, injuries will come from it. So if we can get some modularity and get some furniture that can really serve as a comfortable, ergonomically friendly sitting and standing setup, that's going to really be helpful to a lot of people.
I have one idea that maybe that we did at our house, off of we made our garage into an art studio office. So I love that space, and so it's separate and it's not attached to the house. So that can become another office for potentially me.
Or a quarantine space too.
Yeah. So that may be a space that people hadn't thought about it. Maybe if we're not all driving as much, you're not going to need the garage for your car. And so just putting that out there.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Other good points.
All right, so our goal today was to run an hour-long webinar. Obviously, a lot more questions are coming in. If anyone has to get off the call, then we could do that. If anyone can stay another 5 minutes, can we do another 5 minutes? Everyone good for 5 more minutes? All right, so let's do some 5 more minutes. Joelle, do we have another question?
We do. So this question is kind of a 2-part question. I'll try and answer both Sonia and Sylvia at the same time. Sylvia is asking, it must be difficult to see actual colors for paint selections, etc., and like materials virtually. And Sonia is asking, from the professional perspective, when we have homeowners coming into our showroom, Yasmin, how are people dealing with not being able to touch and feel the items? So it's kind of on 2 sides, on our experience as designers, and then as homeowners experience and people who are trying to just do small renovations. How can they select these materials virtually?
Don't pick Cynthia, she has no clue.
I got this one. Still eager an hour later. For us, again, like I had mentioned previously, we've been pretty transparent about our process during this entire time, because I feel like, again, we can only learn from each other. What we've been doing in preparation for these meetings and when we're having our clients look at those samples is we're putting together very specific storyboards with labels that show exactly the samples and what they're going to be and for what area. But then beyond that, in preparation for our meeting, we will send pretty much that entire care package of all of those hard samples to our client's house on the doorstep. Say they're there, lay them out. We've given you a sheet on exactly how to lay them out, and we can go through them so they can touch and feel at the same time that we're presenting. So that's kind of how we've alleviated that, because that is a very important part of our job, is And part of our service is to allow our clients to really have some kind of visceral experience with these samples. We want them to fall in love with it because we want them to love their home at the end of the day.
Right.
So that's been kind of how we jumped in on that.
Yeah, I think we are also going to have the homeowners come in person because for that reason, that they want to feel and touch what it is they're going to live with. So it is challenging. There's no doubt about it. Now there are a lot of softwares that are getting exceedingly better at showing the more realistic aspect of what it looks like, but depending on your screen, your color, your lighting, it certainly does affect how it's all going to actually play out in your own home. And the funny part is you might pick something in a showroom and it might look completely different in your own home because of the lighting that you might have in your own home. So, and that's why you should always have a professional help you.
Right.
As they know, because we probably made all the mistakes.
We had clients go in pre-COVID and pick a tile that they fell in love with. It was installed in the showroom, floor to ceiling. They fell in love with it. It was installed in their bathroom. They're like, I don't like it.
Yeah.
What do you mean? What do you mean? You saw it installed.
That's why you take a sample. Yeah.
Yeah,
it does help narrow down the field. Even virtually, it does help narrow down, and you can play more. You can drag this tile, drag that floor into your virtual vision of your room, and at least it'll give you a bit of a essence of what it is that you're trying to achieve, and then you can tweak it in real life and hope for the best when it gets installed.
Well, and there's a certain amount of give and take. There's a certain amount of play. Our clients, like we expect our clients, or are hoping our clients are able to and willing to roll with it a little bit, right? Like that sample that we're giving you, yes, it's the sample, but it could also have been sitting in their showroom. It's a wood sample. It's been sitting in the showroom for years. So it looks completely different than what the new box is going to look like. There's a certain level of, I guess, leniency that we need.
And if I can just add one small thing, for the design community, we do a lot. We do, thousands of kitchens, bathrooms, floors, walls. And so we've seen it put together, whereas a homeowner may only go through it once or twice in the lifetime of the home. So my word of advice here is trust your professional, that they're going to guide you to make the best decision with your budget, with your lighting in your home, that's going to work for the way you want to live and the use you want to give that product that's in your home. So trust your professional.
Based on the fact you've expressed your preferences and what's important to you very, very well, and you've been heard, then absolutely. But that taking time to make sure that self-expression is really thought through and clear.
Well, that's part of our roles too. Yeah,
100%, 100%.
Yeah.
But the client's job is to like do that thinking, to be able to offer that up to you so you know what you're working with.
Right.
All right, folks, that was amazing. Thank you so much. Yasmin, I was wondering if you could let us know episode 2, topic of episode 2, so everyone knows they can tune in, and a date and a time for that.
June 9th, 3 p.m., same place, same station. The essential products that, would become more useful during these times. Healthier products to live with, like we touched upon, the touchless products and paints that absorb bacteria and smells. There's so many things, and we can't wait to share it with you. And then on June 23rd, we have living in a multi-generational environment and taking care of our most precious demographic, our senior families. And we've got some great speakers lined up to share their knowledge with us all. And thank you once more to our sponsors, Fisher and Paykel, Kentwood, Lixel, and Constantino, and to the Homes Publishing Group, and us, My Design Studio, for working hard, and to my co-host, Emmanuel. I couldn't have done this without you. And I want to say a special thank you to Annie Bogovic who is our project coordinator, and Joelle Goodwin, my daughter, who's also online and a moderator with us, and to James Lopi behind the scenes, and he's our production coordinator that helped us, look our best and do our best with this whole thing. So we can't wait to keep on going. Please keep on registering, and we thank everyone for joining us in this conversation about design.
So a huge thank you to our guests. And I know that Claire,
Yes.
you had some closing statements to make. So Claire, it's on you.
Oh,
thank you.
Yeah, thank you, you guys. That was I learned a lot in this conversation. Was thrilled to be part of it. Just want to leave people with a thought about tuning in, whether you're, to figure out what you need, whether it's working with your designer and sharing what's important to you, to really take the time now and dance in some self-reflection so that you can create a life that you're really enjoying living, COVID or not.
Thank you. That's
Awesome.
wonderful.
Thank you as well, sir. Thank you so much. All right, everybody, until we see you guys again, you'll get, you'll hear from all of us on our social media accounts as to when the next event is, and we look forward to seeing you all. If you have any questions or more questions to send to any of our hosts or ourselves, please by all means reach out to us, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Signing off, Yasmin and Emmanuel, our wonderful speakers.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.